Hello everyone, David here, and welcome to a new segment called Indie 5, in which I'll be reviewing 5 independently developed video games. So here we go. Number 1 is Flower. This is the game developed by the guys who made Journey, that game company. That's literally the name of their company, that game company. And if yoga was manifested into a video game, this would be it. Your only goal is to take these flower petals and roam through the land, over the hills, and through the fields, rejuvenating the nature around you. There's no clear mission directive, there's no leveling up, there's no characters, there's no dialogue. All there is music, visuals, and tranquility. The score is blissful, and the visuals, I mean, it's not next gen, it's not big budget, but they're so simplistic that they're very artistic in their nature, and it looks like you're playing a moving portrait that you managed to be interacting with. And on top of that, it has a message. It has a powerful message towards the end. I'm not going to say what it is, but without the need for any dialogue or characterization, it delivers the message on pure, gorgeous visuals. My only little nitpick about the game, is not so much a complaint, but just a nitpick, would be that the game relies on you using the 6-axis motion control built in within the DualShock 3 controller. And there's a point about halfway through the game where these structures appear that serve as obstacles for you in the game. And sometimes maneuvering through these obstacles using the 6-axis motion control, it can get a little bit tricky at times. Not so much frustrating, but to the point where the camera gets a little jaded. And that would be my only little complaint about the game. But other than that, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it's very therapeutic, and it's short. And the fact that it's short makes for a very compartmentalized experience that it just makes you feel good at the end. And in case you ever find yourself stressed, this is the go-to game. I give Flower a 9.4 out of 10, which is an A. Next up, it's Machinarium. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. Machinarium is a point-and-click puzzle adventure game in which you star as a little robot living within this robotic world. Just think of Robots, that animated movie with Robin Williams and Ewan McGregor, and just think of that, but more artistic and in a video game. This game has probably one of the best artwork that I've seen in a game. It's like, again, like a painting, but it's interactive, and just the charm of it all, the charm of the design of these characters and the way they interact with one another without any need of dialogue is beyond charmful. And the game does a really good job at telling a really sweet story of this robot that's trying to get back his girlfriend from these really bad guys. And the game is cute without getting too cutesy, because this could have easily been this very Disney-like game, but instead, there's moments where they play jokes for not only kids, but also jokes for some adults. You actually see a robot smoke for recreation. I'm not sure that would be too appropriate for kids, but it's a nice little gag for adults. And the puzzles are beyond intricate that when you finally solve them, you have that very rewarding, feel-good aha moment. And since this is a point-and-click adventure, the puzzles range from matching certain things and figure out certain combinations to also getting certain items and making sure what works with what. It's almost like this is practically the interactive version of an I Spy book. You know, from kindergarten, you had those I Spy books where they give you a list of items to find, and then you're giving this image, and in this image are these items hidden somewhere, and you have to look for these items in order to, beat the book or whatever. This is that. And that is definitely a compliment, because you have an awful lot of fun trying to find these items, but at the same time it's also a bit of a disadvantage, which leads me to the things that I had problems with in this game. The artwork in this game is very detailed, and again, that's strictly a compliment. But sometimes it would be a little too detailed, and some of these items that you need to pick up are so small that it's very easy to miss them. And sometimes the game becomes quite frustrating, especially when you realize that the item that you needed was just right under your nose. But despite the occasional temptation to rage quit, when you finally do find that item, again, you feel that very rewarding feeling. However, and it sucks that I have to do this, the game does suffer from, I think, 1 or 2 glitches. I don't know if anybody else ran into some glitches with this game, but I ran into one. Only one glitch. But unfortunately, this glitch caused me to have to restart the game. I was trying to figure out a puzzle, and in order to figure out this puzzle, I was dragging items from this menu at the top to that puzzle, and I was getting a little frantic. That was kind of my fault, so I apologize for that. But at one point, I grabbed an item that I knew was going to work by accident, and I dragged it over, and I don't know why, but that item got lodged in the puzzle, and I'm like, okay, the game didn't give me this item if I'm not gonna have to use it later. And I tried to get it back, I tried to go back to the location where I found it, I couldn't get it back, so I was forced to restart the game. It's the same problem that I had with The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. And as much as I would like to forgive these glitches for these games, any glitch that forces me to spend an extra hour, and granted this game is short, so I didn't have to spend an awful lot of time redoing all this stuff, and plus since it's a puzzle game, memorizing these puzzles, I was able to solve them quicker. But any game that has me restart almost the entire game just because of a particular glitch goes down in my book as a demerit. So with that being said, I'm going to give Machinarium an 8.9 out of 10, which is a B+. Next is Closure. Closure is also another puzzle solving game, much like Machinarium, but instead of being a point and click adventure, this is a platformer. However, it does something clever that other platformers haven't done, and that is using the element of light in order to be able to solve these puzzles. Certain objects in the game, such as a certain platform that you can jump on, or a block that you need to move around, cease to exist when they're in the dark. The only way for these items to exist and to be able to be used is to shine light upon them. It's probably the most clever use of light that I've seen in a video game, and to use it in a puzzle game is very appropriate. And because of that, the puzzles in this game are very ingenious, and some of them are a little frustrating, but much like with Machinarium, when you figure them out, especially on your own, you have that very rewarding aha feeling. Along with that, the game also comes with a very charming yet kind of creepy presentation. The artwork is very Tim Burton-esque with a lot of, spider little creatures that move around and have like a circular head with bats and this little girl with long wavy hair. Again, very Tim Burton-esque. And the score is also really good. It's very catchy, yet kind of eerie at the same time. My problem with the game, however, is much like the same minor complaint that I had with Machinarium, only to a somewhat larger extent, would be that some of these puzzles, I don't know how some of these guys create this. The puzzles that they create for these independent games are sometimes more intricate and ingenious than the ones made for bigger AAA games. But sometimes I will say that these puzzles were so ingenious that they transcended to the other side of the spectrum and they became frustrating. So much so that I had to look one up or two or five. My tolerance for puzzle games were tested with this game, and I have come to the realization that my tolerance for puzzle games is not very long. I like puzzles in games as much as the next guy, but when it comes to an entire puzzle game where the entire game is nothing but puzzles, I have a certain threshold to where I am tempted to rage quit. And some of the puzzles in this game not only make me feel stupid, but it feels like it's a requirement to have a higher IQ to beat this puzzle. And unlike Machinarium, this is a platformer, so a tiny little inch of movement could make all the difference in solving these puzzles. Whether you have to move a a lamp in order to be able to shine a diamond that will reflect the light in order to make other platforms and bases exist and be able to use those platforms in order to jump off of them. Moving the lamp just a little smidge can make all the difference. And again, this is both a compliment and a disadvantage, because about 2/3 into this game, I was running out of patience and I wasn't very tolerant of that. And that's not so much the game's fault as it is just a personal thing. So because of that, I give Machinarium an 8.6 out of 10, which is a B. Number 4 is Sound Shapes. Queasy Games' platform relies on musical beats in order to be able to not only deliver some great music, and trust me, this game has really good music, which is a lot coming from me considering that deadmau5 is involved in one of the tracks for this game. I was like, wow. I actually liked dubstep. But it also does something clever, and that is using these beats in order to help you go along with the rhythm, and going along with the rhythm helps you, jump from platform to platform and defeat the levels. It's one of the smartest uses of music that I've seen in practically any video game. The artwork is great, this goes without saying, but obviously the music is great. And much like Flower, it's quite therapeutic, except instead of invoking tranquility, this invokes more of an upbeat rhythm within your soul, I guess. My only slight complaint would be DLC. It makes total utter sense for this game to have DLC levels released later on when the creators came to actually creating new levels and releasing them. That makes sense, and that's not my actual complaint. My complaint would be that there's this other segment after you beat the game where you're able to use vehicles, and it's really fun to use these vehicles. Unfortunately, it only lets you play through these levels using these vehicles like once or twice, and then it says, "Oh, you want to play more? Yeah, you have to buy them." It's a tease, but it's not a good tease. It's like a tease where somebody shows you a very delicious plate in front of you and they're like, You want some? Go buy it. But that's how I personally took it. It's not, again, much like with Closure, it's not the game's fault, as it is just a personal pet peeve of mine. Still, there are hardly any flaws that I can find in sound shapes. It's all a matter of platforming and following the beat of the music and enjoying this music along with enjoying the game. I give sound shapes a 9.2 out of 10, which is an A-. And last but certainly not least, number 5, The Unfinished Swan. The studio known as Giant Sparrow created what was probably, acclaimed by many video game websites consider this to be like a Game of the Year contender. And so I had to check it out, especially when it was on discount on the PSN. And I gotta say, this game is near perfection. I almost don't even want to say what it's about because it's part of that experience is unfolding this story that's being told to you as you play through the game. It's very, very, very simple and it's very short. It's only like 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. But the game is beyond beautiful. From the music to the visual aesthetic to the voices that they use in this game. The voice for the narrator is just very, very soothing. It's almost like a mother telling a child a bedtime story. And that warm, soothing quality translates very well into this game. Because essentially that's what the game is doing to you. It's soothing you into having this one-of-a-kind experience. This game is near perfect. And the reason why I say near perfect is because I do have one formal complaint. Now, I can't talk about this complaint right off the bat because it does involve a spoiler. So I'm going to go ahead and put a spoiler warning right here. If you have not played the game and you have intentions on playing the game, mute this video now and then unmute it once the little spoiler label has disappeared. Okay, so here we go. My complaint is that I did not appreciate the breaking of the fourth wall during the little segment where you have to play as the king through his dream. There's a point where he says, suddenly end credits and subtitles appeared in my dream, and the hippopotamus asks him, oh, there's credits and subtitles in your dream? And he's like, of course. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed at first, but after a while of having it sink in, I was thinking to myself, that kind of took me out a little bit. The game was doing such a really great job at telling this very simple narrative story, this narrative bedtime story, that to have it break the fourth wall very Deadpool style, that kind of took me out of the story a little bit and ruined its perfection. But aside from that, the game is beautiful in all of its aspects, and it joins the ranks along with The Last of Us of games that can be taken as an art form. I give The Unfinished Swan a 9.8 out of 10, which is an A+. And that concludes this segment of Indie 5.